Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the fourth episode of What's the Game Plan, presented by Unmasked. My name is Lamar Barrett, and I'm the creator of the podcast and docu-series Unmasked. Being a former high school and college coach for more than 22 years, there are so many untold stories behind the scenes as a college basketball coach. Unmasked was created for the basketball fan that wants to know the behind-the-scenes activities that go on as a college coach. For the young aspiring coach that wants to get into the profession, but thinks coaching is what they see on TV when coaches are wearing that shiny suit. And for the professional that can take tidbits to better their career in their field of work. Tonight's What's the Game Plan episode will be unmasking how to develop and delegate responsibilities to assistant coaches. The creator of What's the Game Plan and moderator for tonight's roundtable is CAROLYN Smalls. CAROLYN hails from Long Island, New York, attended Salisbury University in Salisbury, Maryland. She currently resides in Baltimore, Maryland, and teaches physical education in Howard County, Maryland, while also completing her master's degree. She also is coaching basketball with the Maryland-based AU team, United Basketball Club, and she's an aspiring women's college basketball coach. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach CAROLYN Smalls.
Well, hello, thank you, Omar, for that introduction as always. For everyone who is new, maybe this is your first What's the Game Plan, just so you know how it kind of goes is I'm gonna have our fantastic panelists kind of introduce themselves, give us an intro on them, and then I'll ask them a few questions and we'll hear from them. And at the end, there will be time for anyone who's in the Zoom if you have questions. But before we get to that, I wanna say why I wanted to start What's the Game Plan. I wanted to do this because I was on a lot of Zooms and I met a lot of great coaches on the men's side. And I wanted to really connect and learn from some female coaches. So I figured what better way was to kind of collaborate and make something like this where I can ask questions that I want to know that can help me in the future and get into this fantastic career. So I kind of want to learn from the best and just sort of make that connection and have a place to just learn and, just grow as a person, as a coach. So our three coaches tonight are TRINA Patterson, Karen Barefoot, and Kia DAMON-OLSON. So if you three want to introduce yourselves, give us a little introduction, who you are, where you're at now, where you're coaching now. And then after that, we can get started.
You want us to go in that order?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
All right. Good to see everyone. Thank you, CAROLYN and Lamar, for inviting me to attend this great night with this great panel. My name is TRINA Patterson. I'm the head coach at UNCG, which is UNC Greensboro, North Carolina. I've been the head coach here for 5 years. I'll give you a little bit about my background. It should take maybe 3 minutes. I was born in Newport News, Virginia, played basketball at Warwick High School. And then I went on to play basketball at the University of Virginia. For Debbie Ryan, legendary coach, and my position coach was Gino Oriema. And Gino used to coach the bigs. I'm about 6 foot, but back then 6 foot was pretty tall. Had a real good career at Virginia. And I really credit my parents. My mom, Violet, was a teacher, and my father, James Calvin, he works for Parks and Recreation. You can imagine we had all kind of balls, bats, and volleyballs and everything around the house because he works for Parks and Rec. He also was a NCAA basketball official, which benefited me. But I will tell you this, my first job was not to be a basketball coach. Actually, because I never saw anyone like me that coached during those times, 83 through 87. Usually you would see men and you didn't see any Black women. So I never thought I could be a coach, really. And so I wanted to really be a lawyer because my neighbor was an attorney. And then I saw someone that knew me. And I was just at the right place at the right time. And I think that's my first nugget. You got to be at the right place at the right time. You just got to love what you do and be at the right place. Patrick Meagle saw me He recruited me at William & Mary, and my first job as a basketball coach was at William & Mary as an assistant. My first job out of college was a legislative assistant. And as a legislative assistant for Delegate Henry Maxwell, I was in Richmond, Virginia. I had to, do things like serve people, serve the constituents of the Newport News community, write information. So all of that is important in coaching, writing and communication and serving people. And that's when my career started. I was a head coach at William & Mary for 8 years. And then I went on to 1 year at UMES. From there, I went on to the University at Albany, in Albany, New York, for 8 seasons. And at each place, I call myself a builder. I was a builder at William & Mary. We got Coach of the Year there, won 20 games. Went up to Albany. The best that we can do there was 14-14, but the program was really at the bottom, D2, D3, D2, then went to D1, and I got Coach of the Year there, but I didn't do it well enough for the AD, so I didn't get my contract. My contract was not extended. You coach long enough in this business, usually somebody or somebody you are working for are gonna lose the contract or not get the contract renewed. And so what I did, I became an assistant coach. I was an assistant coach. My next job was an assistant coach. After interviewing at Michigan State as an assistant, I interviewed at Stanford with Tar Vanderveer, and I got the job out there as an assistant. And then, you're like, well, how in the world did she get that? But it's all about what you do along your career. I worked USA Basketball in the summers. We were in, the first time I went, we were in China. And the second time I went, we were in Cuba. And so after that, I worked on a selection committee with Tar Vanderveer, not looking for a job. And when one opened, she called. And I tell you what I did as knowing what I wanted, I said, if you offer me the job, I will accept it. I don't have to go back and think about it. And sure enough, I got that job before I left. I was in Palo Alto. I was eating dinner with the job as an assistant and working for what I think one of the best coaches in the United States. She is one of the best. I'm there. I was able to learn a different style. You got East Coast and West Coast. Well, I have a big appreciation for West Coast basketball now, living there. And then the next thing that happened in our lives that we did not know is that my dad was in ICU. This is the official. And when my dad went in ICU, it just so happened that Karen Barefoot on this call had an opening at ODU. ODU was a great school. And Karen said, Trina, I got a position. Would you like it? I said, yes. I was able to move back home to Norfolk, Virginia, and be able to be along with my father. And he passed, but we were able to move back home, back to Virginia. And I worked for Karen for 3 years. She gave me a great opportunity and a great boss. And from there, I went on to be the head coach at UNCG. So, a lot of people say once you lose a job, you'll never be able to get a head job again. I was able to do that. And since I've been here, we've been regular season champs. I'm actually better now than I was back then. We won a regular season championship. We had the player of the year. I was able to get coach of the year 2 out of the 4 years. This is my 5th year, 2 out of the 5 years I've been here. And we're moving the program right along. So that's my story. And again, thanks for having me. And I can't wait to get started with the questions.
Well, again, I'm just honored to be on this call with amazing coaches. And thank you so much for letting me just share my passion and my story. And if my story helps anybody, I'm willing to, even outside this call, be able to help anybody. I'm a person that fell in love with that orange ball when I was 6 years old. And I had to play with guys my whole life. And I'll never forget my first ever experience at the YMCA team with guys. And I got the ball and I went 1,000 miles per hour to the hoop and I made that basket. But unfortunately, it was the wrong end. And there was a lot of laughters and smiles and fun. And I just said, you know what, should I stay with it? But my brother said, stay with it, stick with it. You got something in you, kid. And they used to call me the kid growing up. So I, stuck with it. And I wanted to be somebody that was dare to be different. And, there was no girls basketball teams until I was in high school. And when I got to high school, I ended up being a really good player. I had a twin sister that didn't like basketball. She liked Barbie dolls and I liked basketball. So it worked out. And my family just showed so much compassion, supporting me. And along the way, I was able to be picked up by Boo Williams, AAU basketball, where Trina actually was working with Boo Williams back in the day. And I couldn't believe that I made Boo Williams' team. And to make Boo Williams' team, quick story, I remember Trina was working with Boo out of Newport News, Virginia. And he said, put some knee pads on. Trina's like, do something, stand out. If you want to make the team, you got to do something. So I kind of became the floor burn girl and the high five girl on the team. And I made the squad. I made Boo Williams' squad. I'm like, oh my gosh, Karen Barefoot made Boo Williams. So it was like great advice back in the day. You never know your circle, and your circle of trust and the people that believe in you will always be there. And Trina has always been in that circle with me. And same with Kia, because I've met Kia back in the day and I've learned so much from Kia and growing me into the coach I am today. That's why I'm so honored to be a part of this call. But when I went to college, I played for an unbelievable college coach named Kathy Parsons, who was a legend. But I played at a small school, Christopher Newport in Newport News, Virginia, because I wanted to stay near my home, my family, and I wanted to show my community. I was a big community person, that we could do something special. I didn't know that my career would end up in 1994. I was the first player to score 2,000 points, 1,000 assists, male or female in NCAA. That would land me so many opportunities. I had professional offers to go play overseas. There was no WNBA, there was no ABL or anything back in 1994. But I also had an athletic director down the road from me at a small school, Division III, Bill Casto, at the Apprentice School, which is like a military school where my father went, my uncle went, my grandfather went. There was no women's sports there. It was Division III. Came to me and said, hey, do you want to start the first ever women's basketball program? Understand, they have to wear hard hats. They have to build ships. They have to wear steel-toe shoes. All these things that was like, everything seemed like it was such a negative. But when I prayed about it and I thought about it and I reached out to people like, Pat Summitt, Wendy Leary, some local coaches, of course, Trina, and some people that have been very successful, Ann Donovan, great coaches. I wanted to be the person that did something that no one's ever done before. So at that point, I became the lady of first, besides having a good college career of doing something no one's ever done, male or female. And I started the program from scratch at Division III. In 6 years, we had 6 winning season, won the first ever national championship. I was National Coach of the Year 2 years in a row, but it wasn't me. It was because of my staff. It was because of my athletic director that believed in me. And then my next journey was coaching at Division II. I didn't even apply. Again, they reached out to me because when you work hard, people are watching. And that's my thing to you. You never know who's watching. They're always watching. Everybody's always watching you. And that door, they start knocking and saying, hey, I want you. So I took my next journey to Lenoir-Rhyne, where they had never won championship there before. Rick Barnes went there, and everybody knows Rick Barnes, who's at Tennessee now, was at Texas. He had a great family, really good support there. And I won the first ever championship there. I won championships back after back. I was coach of the year. I did all those things. And I was just blessed to have a group that didn't believe, and I made them believe. And it was because we just had one vision of doing something that no one's ever done before. And then I ended up going back to Newport News, Virginia, and actually Norfolk, Virginia, and working for a legendary Wendy Leary for 3 years as an assistant coach, because I wanted to become a Division I coach, head coach. And I thought that my path of being a head coach at Division III and II, if I went to go work for a legend and I could learn how to scout and do all things that I've never done before at that level and help them become a top 25 program and keep them going in the NCAAs, that was something I wanted to be a part of. And I was just so blessed to be able to win 3 championships as an assistant under Wendy Leary, do so many great things. She was a great coach. I learned so many things from her. And then it allowed me to be a head coach at Old Dominion. And it also allowed me now to be a head coach at UNCW, Wilmington, North Carolina, where my family is born, all the Barefoots. My last name is Barefoot. So my dad's born here, my uncle, my aunt, even though I'm a Virginia girl. So I'm just so blessed to be able to coach basketball and teach life lessons through that orange ball. And I'm just honored to be here. And if I can help anybody in any way and share my journey, and love to answer any questions for any of you, and even outside this conversation. So thank you for having me.
Guess I'm bringing up the rear. Also want to echo the same sentiments of saying thank you for the invite to join the panel. And no Trina, no Karen. So in some ways it's an opportunity. We don't have the women's Final Four in person, so we kind of get to catch up, this way. But my name is Kia Damon-OLSON. I'm the head women's basketball coach at Lafayette College in Easton, Pennsylvania. I just wrapped up. I don't even know if I can call this a full season. We only got to play 13 games. So we'll just call it 3.5. Just finished 3.5 years. And much like Trina and Karen has stated, most coaches in terms of first-time head coaches or just coaches in general are builders. And so the programs that you inherit generally aren't very successful. And that's, true of me. The program I inherited hadn't had a winning season in almost 30 years. And last year we had the first winning season in 30 years. So a rather rapid turnaround, and obviously everyone's living with COVID. So, we're looking forward to continuing to build, but I'll kind of reverse engineer my journey a little bit and bounce around. So I'll just say this. I was a late bloomer to basketball. I didn't play organized basketball until I was in high school in 9th grade. I just played with the boys in the alley where we made our own basket by cutting out the bottom of the crate, getting a piece of wood, nailing all that to the telephone pole, and we had a hoop. Who knows what height it was, but we figured out how to shoot on it and make some things work. But I had a phenomenal high school coach, Breezy Bishop from out of Baltimore, Maryland. So I went to Western High School, and I got to experience college level basketball in high school. We had high level players, All-Americans, people going to various different levels. I wasn't blessed to be that good, but I was that good in my mind. So I knew at that point, I saw the influence that my coach had on me in terms of the development. It's really special when a coach believes in a kid far more than a kid believes in themselves. And sometimes it is that belief that propels a kid forward. And that's what my high school coach did for me. So I wanted to get specifically into college coaching because I wanted to do that for others. And so really from high school, I was just on a mission, one track mind. I said I was going to major in accounting, but I knew I wanted to be, a college basketball coach. So I played Division II basketball at Millersville University in PA. Had a good career there, but immediately got right into coaching when they had, I don't even think this term is legal anymore, restricted earnings coach. So that was like the replacement for the GA position. So instead of paying for you to go to grad school, they would just give you the cash. And you kind of lived off that as your stipend. So I did that for 2 years at Wisconsin Green Bay. I lucked up into a great experience because Wisconsin Green Bay is still a juggernaut today on the women's side in terms of the success. So I can't take any credit whatsoever for landing that opportunity. I was one of those kids that upon graduation sent out about 50 resumes and they just happened to call back. And so I didn't really know where Wisconsin was on the map, but I got my parents together like, yeah, this is where we're going. So hopped in the car, went out to Wisconsin and was out there for 2 years, got to go to the NCAA tournament right out the bat, 2 years in a row. And you got to see some pretty high level basketball. And from that point forward, I decided that after learning that gas could freeze, I needed to come back east. And I went to Fairleigh Dickinson in New Jersey, was there for 3 years, worked for Sandy Gordon, doing my job with scheduling, ended up helping a coach in the Ivy League get a practice time on our court. And literally months later, they called me like, hey, you were really nice and stuff on the phone. And, we've kind of seen you work, want to know if you'd be interested in joining the staff at UMass. I'm like, well, I don't know, you do your research or what have you, but I made an instant connection with Marnie Dacko and went to join her staff out at UMass. I spent 5 years at UMass and minding my own business. I get a call from one of my friends, CAROLYN, like, hey, Coquise is going to get the job at Penn State, wants to know if you want to come. Didn't know Coquise. But again, to the point that was made earlier, your work will speak for you. Being excellent at what you do and how you carry yourself matters. When you're going out on the road recruiting and all those kind of things, the way you dress matters. The way you talk matters. People have a certain image of how they want to be represented, and they're looking for people who can do that as well as do the job well. So from that ask from Coquise to go to Penn State, again, when we went to Penn State, there were at the time 11 teams in the Big Ten, and Penn State was 10. And so within 3 years, Penn State, we moved up the conference rankings. Year 4, 5, and 6, we win the Big Ten title outright, go to Sweet 16s, things of that nature. I ended up spending 9 years at Penn State, worked a year at Cincinnati, and then got the opportunity to be the head coach at Lafayette College. So again, just wrapped up years 3.5. And let me tell you, it is a big difference. So I spent over 20 years being an assistant coach, and I love every moment of being a head coach. But the decisions you have to make are exhausting sometimes. So it's definitely a big difference, but it's a fun challenge. Like if you have the mindset to build, and if you truly love molding, for us young women, it's a great opportunity to do that. So I tried to be as brief as I could be and leave some things out there for potential questions. But, as everyone has said, I've put my information in the chat. So if there's a follow-up or anything you like after this, be more than happy to engage with you.
Well, I just want to say thank you to the three of you for your introductions and for kind of sprinkling in some really good nuggets of wisdom in there. For the first question I have is, what are you looking for when you're hiring staff, whether it be personality traits or knowledge of the game or just quality traits of a person? Just what are some key things that you are looking for when hiring staff and searching for them as well?
I can take a stab first if y'all like. I'll say this, I'm very deliberate about who I engage with when it comes to the hiring process. Obviously, once a job hits the post, whether it be social media or whether it be the NCAA website, you get bombarded with resumes and things of that nature. But obviously, we as the coaches know that the hire is coming. So immediately I'm reaching within my network to try to get people that fit specifically what I'm after. And for me, I try to hire specifically to what I need. So whether it's a post coach, whether it's a guard coach, whether I need someone to kind of be a great relationship builder with the team, or whether I need someone more strategic X's and O's. I really try to look at what the current staff would need to fill in those gaps. From a personality standpoint, I must work with hard workers and collaborators. We're not going to have a me and I type of approach. So if people's vocabulary includes that a lot, that's an instant turnoff, for me. And I'm also looking for self-starters. So we're a small Division I school in the Patriot League. I don't have a director of basketball operation. I, as the head coach, I do equipment. So you can't have a prima donna attitude in terms of there are things you will and won't do. You have to do everything. And that's the way I grew up in the profession, that you didn't have such specified roles. And so I'm just looking for someone who has that hunger and that desire to grow and get better, and someone who's a continual learner. None of us, regardless of how experienced we are, have all the answers. And so I want people who are hungry to seek out answers and also that are problem solvers. So if there are things within our program that are not as strong as they can be, yes, I'm aware of them, but I may not have all the time to address them. And before I can delegate that out, I like having people who can beat me to the punch on some of those things. So that quickly are some of the characteristics, that I'm looking for. I want people that are fun, but yet hardworking, and that will fit in with the staff. That's really big for me.
Go ahead, TP.
All right. When I hire, so I have my master's in HR, And so I know that there's certain things that people do in HR for other jobs that we just don't do with basketball. It's basketball coaches. I mean, it's like a small sorority and fraternity, okay? And so we always are able to ask around and find things about people that you normally don't have a chance to do in other professions. It's just a small fraternity and sorority. So I always make sure that I hire someone who I know, who's someone that I know, either I know them or I love them, or I know the person really well and I respect them. And that's first, like the reference. And we don't always get it right. Okay, my assistant, Ito Singer, is on this call now. And I didn't know Ito, but someone that I know really, really well knows Ito. And the first thing that the person said is that he's a good person. So I really want to hire a good person first, because everything will go out the window if you don't hire a good person. So he's a great person, but I knew that I wanted to get into analytics. Like the way the game is going now, I needed someone that could do analytics, and the person that recommended him, it does a lot of analytics. So I was able to be fortunate enough to hire Ito, who was a head coach. It doesn't bother me if a coach has lost a job. Head assistant, it doesn't bother me. As a matter of fact, I know what it feels like. So I don't mind hiring coaches who are looking like, but it has the reasons. We have to find out why. And so first, I have to hire a good person. Second, some specific things that I need that I want us to be really good at. Analytics is very, very, very important right now. Someone who is also able to do graphics, very into social media. And Ito could get some stuff. I was like, how do you find that? How did you get that? He just would figure it out. So self-starters. The third thing is my personality. You got to find people that fit you. You have to find people to fit you. I have my husband and we have 3 sons, and they are all different. I love them all the same, but I know they're different, and I have to adjust to them. So I respect my coworkers, but I know what I need around me because of my personality and to make me the best that I can be. So personality does matter. And, all the things that Kia said are key. If you don't work hard, why are you in this business? You never punch a clock. It's like, that should be a given. And I'll leave you with this last bit so I won't be redundant. A good friend of mine who I went to high school with, he was a head coach and he became assistant coach and a head coach. He's done this same road as I. He said, Trina, the only thing you need to do for Tar Vanderveer is to be the best assistant coach that you can. That's it, and help her win a championship. Doesn't matter what I believe. It's not about what I believe, it's what she believes. Doesn't matter what I know about zone defense, player defense. It's like your job as an assistant is to be the best assistant coach for your head coach. And I did the same thing for Karen. I said, Karen, I'm gonna be the best assistant coach for you, and I wanna help you win the championship. That's it. So yeah, those are the things that I've looked for. We've been in this business for a while. And I tell you this, you don't get paid, and the longer you get in the business, you don't get paid for what you do. You get paid for what you know, right? And so as you look at the mature coaches, you don't get paid for what you do, you get paid for what you know.
Well, that's good stuff. I just want to say, for me, I've been a head coach at different levels, and all levels have been great, Division 3, 2, and 1. And I said that before. And it is about surrounding yourself with great people. And that's number one, people who are loyal and going to work hard every day. And you don't have to really look over your shoulder. You have to do your background checks to make sure that they're the kind of people that you want around your own family. and that don't mind it, hey, we're in it with you. It's off the basketball court, it's having your back. It's making sure if something happens and they have to fill in, that you're okay. And I think that is big. And I want to share a couple stories with you. Trina was my assistant at Old Dominion, and we were going into postseason play, and we were playing University of Virginia. And I know that was pretty, a big matchup. And to be honest with you, our odds to win that game were very slim. We were like 1%. But Trina was a person that I knew that I could trust, and she wasn't always a yes person. But the way that she would talk to me, she always made me feel like that, I got your back, coach, but I'm going to let you see it from a different point of view. And I think as a head coach, I always knew that Trina, she had been a head coach before and a couple times assistant coach, but it was coming from a good place. And I always want somebody on my staff at the top who has experience. So with her experience, going into Virginia game, it was just something so little that allowed us to win that game. It was about spacing. And we had this one kid named Destiny Young, and we were running some triangle stuff, and she convinced me to go way outside the block, that everything we did was going to be facing up because they were too big for us. They were more athletic. And it was a few things that we did, and we did it, and we won the game. And I think that, it takes a lot of meetings behind the scenes to come up with great game plans. And this is about game planning. But for me, I feel like I always have to have somebody who has that experience. And then I have to have other players that are willing to work hard and maybe gain the experience, but they have the character of, hey, I don't mind doing the other things. I don't mind, doing more of the video cuts, relationships with the players, making sure that they're, making sure they're doing the right thing, echoing what the head coach is wanting. And I just can't say enough about even Matt Lynch, who's on this call right now. He's a part of my staff this year. This has been an unbelievable year for everybody. I feel like everybody won because we kind of got through it and had to figure it out one way or the other. And Matt's a young coach, and he came into my program because I heard about him from other coaches and heard about his character. And I've seen him be the first in gyms, last in gyms, high character, did whatever it takes for the, program, and always echo what I said. But it is about the relationships and the fact that he would get those kids in that locker room, even when we had a few losses back to back to back. How we finished at the end of the year was truly amazing. If you got your team fighting hard no matter what throughout the year, because you got your assistant coaches keeping them to, hey, buy in, we got this, we're right there, we're a few possessions away, this is what it takes, we got to earn our minutes, you got to earn your possessions. I mean, it really does take that, because when you're in it in the battle and practices, you got to have people that have your back. And so if it comes for me is what I would say is that I want 3 assistants on my staff. And I've been at Division III, we only had 2 assistants. I've been at it, only had 1 assistant. But whatever it is, I feel like loyalty and work ethic, communication and leadership are crucial. At the end of the day, you want somebody to have your back. You want somebody to call you, coach, you okay? Before you put your head on that pillow tonight, we're going to get that thing right. Or, hey, we had a good game. Let's enjoy this. But tomorrow we're going to get after it. Because, you got to roll your sleeves up. You got to get after it. You got to have that trust. The trust is a must. End of the day, that is everything. And that's going to dictate whether you win or you lose. And to me, it's not just about winning and losing. It's about how your program represents, the community. It's more than that. How your fans, your donors, how people are going to continue to donate and support and put butts in the seats in the future to come. I just really think that it takes a lot. And if you make sure that you are defining each one's role and making your clear expectations are very, very important of what you expect from them.
Yeah. And CAROLYN, if I can add one more thing. So everybody on the call, or it may not be an assistant coach, it may be a director of basketball ops or video coordinator and aspire to be an assistant coach. My director of basketball ops, she doesn't want to coach, but she is so awesome. And she's on the call now. I'm going to tell you like the little things that you have to do for the people for your job, the head coaches, and you have to be resourceful. So, you know, each coach has their own little quirky ways. And for me, I always want coffee when I get in the gym. So if you're not selling concessions, then how do you get coffee? And so this year was really, really weird because nobody's selling concessions. You know, how do you get those things? Well, Ariel, we call her AC. She has a carrot in her office, right? So she says, Coach, I'm gonna bring the carrot on the road. We're gonna take it in the locker room. So we're gonna have our coffee pods, and then we're gonna be able to get you the coffee right before the game. I mean, so I know that, you know, you're trying to always figure out ways to make the program better. The small things matter, even if, and if they're small things for a staff member, people remember those things because you learn how to be resourceful and you learn how to keep people in their like even keel, you know, keep things going. So, and that's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes on with a lot of coaches and programs.
And I just want to kind of piggyback off that with a question with the little things you were just talking about. What are some, you know, little things that really make a big difference that your assistant coaches do? You know, whether it's coffee pod, maybe bringing coffee, maybe it's making sure the whiteboard is clean. What are some little things that you think some people may overlook, some coaches may overlook that that really make a difference and kind of make your job a little easier?
In the game, I mean, my job when I was working for TAR, now you got to remember now, here's an Olympic coach. We did not lose a Pac-12 game for 2 years because you got two first round draft picks on the team together, Nneka Ogwumike and Cheka Ogwumike and Shanae. Well, it's things just as small as where is the ball? Okay, whose ball is it and where is it? Where is it? At the timeout. And that was my job. And, you know, sometimes I'll have to tell my staff, well, whose ball is it and where's the ball? And I would say, look, whose ball is it and where is it? Because you have to find out where the ball is located because officials will forget. And the reason that it was so important to her is because it happened to them in the past, that it really wasn't Red's ball, it was White's ball, but they made mistakes. So that's small during the game, but there are a lot of things that we do behind the scenes every day that are small.
I'll add this too. When I was an assistant, you know, I've been at 20 years as a head coach and 3 years as an assistant, or 20 something years as a head coach, whatever, I forget. But Wendy Leary won 17 straight championships. No other coach has ever done that. Not even Gino, nobody, okay? Still today. And when I was there from 2005 to 2008, I remember my first year, I had to earn my way kind of up the ladder. So my first year, when we do guard post breakdown, man, I had to make the most out of my 5 minutes because that's all I got. That's the only voice I got on the team. So guards are here, posted there. I'm like working on attack moves, read and react. That's all I had. Everything else was making sure they played hard, communicated, and that was my role. And as I started to earn, you know, her trust, then I started to do more. Well, the third year, I was doing a lot. And one thing that I would always say, the small things, win or lose, I'm always there in that locker room. You know, it didn't matter. Like I was there. Do you need something, coach? If it was a loss or a win, do you need something? I wait till everybody left. I don't care who was in that building. Wanted to make sure she was okay because it's the little things. And if it was a loss, which we didn't lose that many, then, you know, I'm the first one that next morning making sure that we would meet early and talk about those things really quick because it's a quick turnaround. Well, I can remember 2008 when we won 32 games and I had the scout in the NCAAs to go to the Sweet 16 and we were in overtime and she looks at me and she's like, what's going to happen? What is the play? And, you know, you got to be calm. You know, you don't know really what really the play is going to go, but you know, who the ball's going to go to. I said, the ball's going to Little. She's a lefty. So we talked about this. Let's ice her and go to her right. That's all I could say at that time. You know, it's kind of like, you got to be the little things, you have to be prepared just in case those moments come. And that is a proud moment for me because it ended up working in our favor, but I was prepared just in case. There's many times before I was prepared and it never came to that point. But that point makes me so proud because that got us to the Sweet 16. Now we had to play UConn and Maya Moore, but that's a whole different story. But you know, it's just like, as a coach, you want to make sure that you are prepared in every little situation, whether they use it or they don't. And, you know, so I take pride in those little things. And I do take pride in my own staff, always trying to give something, regardless if I take it or not, that they worked hard to give some kind of, hey, let's try this, or hey, this is not working, so I came up with this. And you might go, not sure, not sure. I don't know about that recruit, not sure. Hey, that one's good. That one might fit. That you got to have thick skin in this business, that you can't be disloyal and go behind your back and get on the phone to somebody and say, hey, coach is mad at me because I did this. No. At the end of the day, you're just trying to make the program better. It's about the student athletes, about their mental health, their great experience, and you are loyal to your head coach and the vision of the program.
I'll add this. When I was an assistant coach, I used to love to make sure whenever the head coach walked into the locker room to start to do the prep, that the board was clean. That was my thing, to make sure that was done. I don't really know why that became my thing, but once you started doing it, you just kind of roll with it. But I'll offer something a little bit different that one staff member in particular for me does this, and I didn't really realize how much I needed it, but every staff needs a hype person, right? So the game could be going well. Coach, we're going to keep it going next time. You know, like before you leave the gym, like we're going to get 2 in a row. We're going to do this. Or if the game doesn't go well, coach, you know what? As Trina was saying, you know, we're right there. We're right there. Like the coaches need that too. Like it's not just the players, because obviously, you know, we wear a lot of hats, and, you know, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that, you know, we don't get down sometimes, or we're not frustrated sometimes with, you know, things maybe not going the way that we want them to go. But being that person that can always find the positive, right? Everybody can point out everything that's going wrong. That doesn't take a rocket science most times. But being able to find some positive things to keep everyone's spirits up and to keep everyone encouraged, I think is an underutilized skill on a lot of staffs.
Thank you for that. And just, you know, some of those things that are really little, just, you know, they mean a lot, and it can really impact the game, just knowing where the ball is, you know, where is the ball being taken out, whose ball it is, that sort of thing. I remember that happened in one of my games in high school where the refs were wrong and we were like, no, it's actually our ball on the other end of the court, and they, you know, had no idea. So just being aware and kind of having that, that just like that knowledge of what's going on. So my next question is, how do you go about delegating responsibilities of the job? You know, like scouting, recruiting, different parts of practice. I know every, you know, program is different, every coach is different, but just how do you go about organization in that way with your staff? And does it change from year to year, or, you know, has it been pretty much the same throughout your career as a head coach?
I start this one. I delegate to my staff kind of based on their strength areas right off the bat. And then I will also find areas for growth. So if I have assistant coaches that want to be head coaches, starting to introduce them to things like, okay, when I'm going to a budget meeting, or letting them see the budget and see how things are laid out, or if I'm going to a marketing meeting, include them in that. So that they can see the level of planning and detail and all the things that go, you know, into those things that occur behind the scenes. Because when you get to the head coach, like the X's and O part, I mean, that's probably the smallest part of our jobs. It's a lot of the other things, you know, that we need to do. But I try to make sure that, I wouldn't say in my tenure thus far that I've changed things from year to year a ton. So I kind of operate with, from an X's and O standpoint, we have a defensive coach. We have 2 kind of defensive coaches, and they collaborate to execute our schemes. I do a lot of the offense from, half court offense, transition. One of my coaches does blobs. One of my coaches does, press break. So I try to provide opportunities for each of the coaches to grow. In practice, we all coach. The first 15 minutes of practice are skill work for me. So each coach has their position and they're working with their position kids to help get them better. But I really try to listen to what my staff really wants out of their experience with me and out of their careers. And I try to position them to gain the necessary experiences that they would need for if they're moving maybe to a higher level or if they're aspiring to be a head coach. So I just try to be really sensitive to the individual needs and kind of, balance things from there.
One of what I'm working on now is trying to be more mentally tough personally. I think I'm mentally tough, but I would love to be more mentally tough. I think we all would. And I want our team. As a matter of fact, my quote is mentally tough people aren't more talented. They're just more consistent and they embrace criticism. They're more flexible and adaptable. And so train your mind to work for you, not against you. So the only way you can do that is to be consistent and do things over and over and over again. And so with our staff, we do things over and over and over again, but different people are maybe assigned those tasks. For instance, we do the same Baker drills every day. And that's some ball handling. So we shoot and we do ball handling every day. And so a coach we'll have stations. So one coach may do ball handling, one coach will be doing footwork, and another coach will be doing shooting. And so that can change. As we go through our coaching assignments with scouting, we have 3 coaches that do the scouts. And so one coach may get our scouting coordinator is Coach Ito, and he may get 4 games, whereas another coach would get 3 and another coach would get 2. And this is in conference. You get the same team twice. Non-conference is assigned. And so that's how we delegate scouting. But everybody's scouting report looks the same. I'm going back to doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's not individual. We like it the same way. And then when it comes to, player development, we have our bigs, our mids, and our smalls, our combos. So the mids are workouts by a coach. I know you guys all know this. Your bigs and your point guards and combos. And I let our assistants do a lot of the individual workouts, and that's their time for their development, and I just believe in, you cannot sit around and not go look at things to get better. If I'm in North Carolina, I could drive over there to Wake Forest, NC State, Carolina, Elon, A&T, who won the championship, and watch practices. I can go watch practice in my own gym. Wes Miller is one of the best young coaches in the country. They're gonna, so we try to spice it up. Even though we do the same thing, we try to spice it up and get better and be about growth. We got to be about growth. Here's my last thing. If you are full, you can't grow. Like, you can't be puffed up. No, head coaches that are puffed up never grow. If you don't empty yourself, you can't pour anything inside of you. And pouring inside of you is the knowledge. So you got to empty yourself in order to grow. And so if we'll just learn one thing that be the difference between a championship. But if we don't want to listen to others, that means we're puffed up and we think we know everything. And so great coaches are always ready to learn. It may be just one change in a drill that you've been doing for the same 10 years.
Well, I would say for me is I've coached at all levels, so it's been different. Division III, I had to mop the floor. I had to drive the vans. I had to be the Dobo. I had to be everything. I had volunteer assistants. I had to raise a budget. I had to do it all. And I'm very thankful and blessed that I had the opportunity to have to do it all, because it truly made me who I am today, over 400 wins. Like truly, had I not really realized and tried to learn that much and had to learn on my own almost, I had to do it from just basically scratch, build a program that was nothing to a national championship, which has a banner up and in the Hall of Fame there. And so I'm really grateful that I had to do it all. And then when I went to Division II, I was only limited to 7 scholarships. And then you're trying to compete against everybody in your conference that has 9 or 10. And you have to learn that, hey, I'm in a program now that, doesn't have many resources. You only get 1.5 assistant coaches, basically a full-time assistant. And then you have basically a stipend and you have to depend on volunteers. I had to figure out a vision for that program and won a championship trying to figure it out, because again, the last job helped me learn for the next job. And the next job I had to be a servant leader. I had to learn to be an assistant to a really great coach to become my own head coach at a Division I. And it allowed me to do that. It allowed me to go and be a head coach and build Elon program up, Elon College at the time, now it's university. They had never won 20 wins. They never had 20 wins ever in school history. They never went to postseason. And we did that. And when I went back to Old Dominion, that job was more of resurrecting academics. And so that job was a little different. They were basically third to last in academics, in APR. There was a lot of things that were going on. And so I had to take the job of, okay, we got to get things A before B. It's academics for basketball. So I think every job is kind of different. The UNCW doesn't have any banners up. There's no NCAA banners. And so we're building a program. Yeah, a couple of years ago, we were top 3 because we did it right. We had some great players that come in, and now we have young players. And so our mission right now is to try to do it the right way. We say teal collar mentality, and everything we do is a purpose. And I think that it's really important for me to have a staff that understands that there has to be some kind of patience. There has to be some kind of every week we meet together. I do individual meetings with my staff, and I can show you the sheets. We go through everything. What's your goals for the week? What do you want to accomplish? Where do you want to grow in your profession? Here's the job description of you from me, but is there something else that you are wanting to do? Because let's add it if you something that you else wanted to do. Is there something that we can do better in the program? What are the challenges? How's mental health? How's the players? What do you think? So every week it's talking to them and then doing bi-weekly meetings with the players, because I think it's really important to see where your program's at. You got to evaluate, you got to figure out, okay, where do we have to build a foundation? It's got to be really about work ethic, attitude. Hey, we have a 10-minute rule. If we say 8 o'clock, you're there at 7:50. Done. We say 8 o'clock. Our girls know 10 minutes, because we're preparing them life after basketball. And that's when you start winning, having a winning culture. That's when you start living by your standards. Are you a family? Do you emphasize that? Because, family is playing family defense. That's foxhole defense. Okay. That's when at the end of the year, if you're peaking because you're buying into practice and you got people like Matt Lynch coming in, having the hype person and keeping those kids believing because, hey, our winning's coming. We're doing the right things. It's just a matter of time. Then that's when, things come together. So I believe that nowadays too, the girls are always on their phones. So you have to be a little bit more creative with scouting. For us, less is more. I remember back about a couple of years ago, we used to have this great scout report. Nowadays, we cut that thing 50% off. It's more about us, less is more, because they get bored. They're like fidgeting and they just start forgetting everything. So we just try to get down to what's important, who they are, who we are. We walking out of that locker room, owning our identity, going out into practice. We know rebound is going to be a key. We know this is going to be the key. And then we have the bricks and saves on the practice form, which bricks means, hey, that's negative stuff that happens in practice. Saves mean you did something that stood out, a big play, extra, that's a plus. Everything else is doing your job. You're supposed to do your job. You're supposed to give 100%. Those are your standards. If you turn the ball over, that's a brick. If you do something unbelievable, that's a save. Who is the practice player of the day? You're going to earn it. So I feel like you have to be a little bit creative nowadays to try to get them to really buy in. And I think, you know, the more that you can have a staff that does think outside the box and bring those ideas to the table and your staff, that's when you can see the buy-in start to come. And then all of a sudden you're building something special.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We kind of do something similar with the thing that I do with my students in classes. We try to make it so that they're competing against each other, the other classes of that grade are competing against each other, and whoever has the best classes out of the whole year or a quarter, they get an extra class to kind of pick the activity. So something a little similar. My last question before I open it up to other people in the Zoom, my last one is, you all kind of touched on it a little bit, but what are you doing as a head coach to develop your staff and help them grow professionally and personally, whether it be, you know, bringing them to meetings with you or, you know, anything like that. But I know you all have kind of touched on it, but if you could just kind of go into it again, what are you doing to help them grow?
I can start with that. I think I touched on it and said, you know, about exposing them to some of the administrative meetings that you're going to have to be involved in if you aspire to be a head coach. But even if you don't aspire to be a head coach, just to have a greater level of understanding of what it takes to make the program run. I will say this, we're always looking for new ideas, new ways to do things. So every off season, we all have homework to do, myself included. And so that's a way to continue to help your coaches grow X's and O's and expose them to different teams that may be doing things a different way than you are, and then bringing those ideas back. We kind of do an autopsy at the end of each year, really going through every area of the program, figuring out what we need to keep doing, what we need to stop doing, and what we need to do differently. And that's kind of how we attack a lot of those things. So allowing them to be a part of the evaluation and also coming up with possible solutions to address some of the problems, and then kind of laying it all there and identifying this will be our game plan for the year, and everybody participates in that. The other thing that I do is we meet every morning and we plan practice together. It's not something that I do separate for them. So I want them to see the different things that I consider as we're putting together a practice, whether that be managing the fatigue levels of the team, managing the emotional level of the team, or if it's, you know, we need to get technically and tactically better, we're going to address it this way. So there's a lot of dialogue around everything that happens in the program, even, you know, discipline and all of those sorts of things. So again, I just try, I had really good head coaches who allowed me to do a lot. And so I try to do that for my coaches as well.
I think that you have to identify the strengths and weaknesses. So that's how you grow, and then give your coaches another opportunity. We have what we call lessons learned at the end of the year. And so we talk about the lessons learned, things that went well, things that didn't go so well, and how you're going to improve. And everybody gives me their feedback. And then I make a collaborative, I make a list of everything of everybody without the name. So we see the defense went well. We were first in the conference. Offensively, we were average. So we put a list of everything together, and I have it. And so we're able to evaluate each other too. And a lot of times, you know, it's kind of what your coworker thinks of you also. You know, at the end of the day, you know, Kia could get you'll get a job because you work with someone else. You know, it's not necessarily a head coach that hires, it's an assistant that you work with that goes on to be a head coach that hires you. So all the people you work around, you guys have to have a collective spirit in growing. So we do that. That's in the form of evaluation. For growth independently with my staff, post-game evaluations with clips. So we may have the things that we think that are important. Transition defense, okay, they may have 5 or 6 clips. We play Mercer. How do we do against Mercer? All right, you get that 5 minutes to talk to the team, to communicate, to let them hear your voice, your thoughts, the way you communicate. We identify defense, offense, baseline out of bounds, rebounding. So that coach put together that little it's really a mini movie. It may be 5 or 6 clips where they can talk about things that they see that are important. And because you got to be able to communicate with the team, they got to hear your voice. They have to respect your voice. You have to talk with authority and confidence. And if you have a small voice, you got to lift it. So all of that is practice for game time speaking.
And those are great points. And I would just say for me, you know, I'm a person that loves to see people do well, especially people that are really care about the game and want to do it right and want to make a difference in the student athletes' lives. That's means so much to me. And I think for me, I've been several times captain for several conferences. I've mentored a lot of people. You know, I've coached at every level. And I think for me, I want to see my team really grow and also like network with other people. You know, I'm okay with that. I want them, I try to get them to talk to other people and bring different ideas back. I try to get them to listen to different leadership seminars. I try to get them to be involved as much as possible because I want them to grow. I want them to grow as people. I want them to have their own style one day. You know, they're going to be working with me and you know, they're going to be their own. If they want to be a head coach one day, it's going to be their program. So you do got to learn from other people. Yeah, you have to have loyalty and trust with your head coach or, you know, whatever it is, or if you're a director ops or a video coordinator, if you're a high school coach going to go to college, whatever your goals are, it's going to come down to networking. Do you write thank you notes? You know, are you going to go the extra mile to show people that you want to learn the game? You know, and people see that. Because, you know, they'll tell you, Kia and Trina, we all know who works and who doesn't. We all know who puts their self out there. We all know who the ones that are really the ones that really want this game to grow. You know, it's very obvious. And so I think for me, it's just making sure that the people around me, that they're growing. And, you know, my director ops, she wanted to, you know, get involved with scouting this year. Yeah, she can't really do the scout, but she cut the personnel cuts up. You know, and it gave her a chance to learn to do that. Well, those were individual meetings we talked about, like, hey, you want to grow. Okay, we're going to get you involved. There's different compliance rules that you can't do, but, you know, it doesn't mean you can't work with other people to get some experience, to gain that voice in the locker room some way, somehow, based on the rules. So I think that it's just really important. I think as coaches, we know this. We want our assistants to grow and to get better, but we want them to pay their dues. Just like we did. We paid our dues, we put it in, you know, we were loyal, we worked hard. And people always ask, oh my gosh, how did you get where you are? I mean, just worked hard, did the right thing, you know, and was positive and made a difference in this game.
Well, thank you three for, you know, for answering all those questions. I've definitely got a lot of nuggets out of that and just a lot of life lessons and things that I can definitely apply in the future. So I'm going to open it up to anyone here who has a question. I know Matt messaged me and his question was, once you became a head coach, was there anything you wish you would have gotten better at when you were an assistant that would have better prepared you to be a head coach? But if anyone else, after they answer this, wants to raise their hand or go ahead, you can feel free to ask questions.
I'll throw one out there, fundraising. You know, in COVID, regardless of the size of your program, we've all had our budget slashed. So now everybody's a fundraiser. And that's a crazy task because obviously the people that you're asking for money, you know, some of them may have an abundance of it, but other people are working people as well. So that's something that I don't think most assistant coaches, so that's out of the development office in most institutions. Most assistant coaches don't do a ton in that area, but it definitely will be helpful moving forward in college athletics for sure.
Good evening, coaches.
Hello.
My name is Coach William Hill. I'm the head women's basketball coach at the University of Fort Lauderdale, here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. First of all, I want to say thanks again to CAROLYN for always inviting me to these Zooms. They're very informative. Coach Barefoot, I don't know if you remember or not, but I sent you 20 resumes trying to get a position on your staff. Every time I seen it on Indeed, I was sending one. So, just, and you answered me very elegantly too, ma'am. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. What I want to know is somebody like myself, and I mentioned this before, I'm an older gentleman, just really breaking coaching in. Did it a lot on the NAIA level for 6 years in Texas, and have bounced around in the last couple of years trying to find my niche. And I know everybody says it's networking as far as trying to get to the next level. How can I do that? Besides reaching out, sending emails, trying to engage with other coaches so that I can get on that knowing level.
Well, that's a good question. So I guess first of all is always about players. You know, sometimes what happens is we see coaches who have really good teams and their players are really good. So we think if your players are good, then you can develop players. So if you have good teams and you develop players, then we would see you do the same thing with our teams development. The other piece is you could maybe just send, go visit the coach, go visit a practice. You know, that goes a long way. You know, if you practice at 2 and you know another team where you're trying to go or close by is practicing at 5 every day, if you're there 3 days a week, they'll say, wow, he wants to get better. And then you'll develop some type of relationship, because maybe the next thing would be you'll be working a camp. Working camps, you spend a lot of time together because people get to really see what you do and watch you. And then the last thing, because then you're intentional about what you're trying to do, is then you say, hey, can we sit down and have some coffee at the Final Four? I've been to 10 of your practices. I'd like to see, you know, what you guys do and your offensive, whatever, you know, and then you can build on that. But I think just sometimes people think you could send one letter and that'll do it. That doesn't do it. It doesn't really open up the window unless you're applying for like jobs, like you said, or GA positions. Because maybe what happens is that staff member will tell someone else, hey, that guy over there, William Hill, he's pretty good. And he came to 8 at our practices, you know, so that's the networking that gets you your foot in the door a lot, many times.
I'd like to add something to that. I think that coaches should be more, not just intentional about reaching out to coaches that they want to form relationships with, but I think a big piece of that is really figuring out what it is you want to learn from that person, right? So if a coach is big on leadership, that might be your conduit through building relationship with that coach. Hey, I heard you speaking about leadership. I have some questions about this. Like, find out what that coach is passionate about. It could be something X's and O's. It could be a 2-3 zone, but make your ask in the areas that they're passionate about and make it about something specific. And I think the relationship may grow organically from there. And I think Trina's point is very valid about going to practices. You're in Fort Lauderdale. So like Miami's not too far from you. There are lots of small schools, lots of big schools. You never know where people's relationship trees go. So the more, especially today, a lot of people fire off emails and that's more impersonal. But if you're willing to go in person, like that's where you can form relationships. And I would say this, yes, forming relationships with head coaches is important, but I would also say with the assistants too, because you just never know where they're going to go. And so just kind of being a little bit more, maybe with the head coaches, you're intentional about specific things, but as you get opportunities to meet others, you know, taking them.
And I know, Dasha, I know you have a question. I think that would probably be our last one, just so we can be time sensitive to everyone on here. But Dasha, go ahead.
Hey, coaches. Thank you for doing this panel. It's great information. I appreciate the time. My name is Daria Sharova. I'm assistant at Montreat College, North Carolina. And I have a question. What is an assistant when you've been in an assistant position? How did you help your players establish better relationship with your head coach?
I think you have to have a thorough understanding of your head coach and that kid and understand what that commonality is and try to coach that kid up on meeting that coach where they are, right? So, some coaches are avid readers, like, okay, this is coach's favorite author or whatever, like learn something about this and this can be how you engage in a conversation. Or coach loves to work out, like ask her for a favorite ab exercise, or could she show you, like, I think as the assistant coaches, it's important for us to help direct the kids and also sometimes the head coach to be the initiator of that connection point. But I think it's also feeding the head coach with information about how to connect with the kid. Like, she loves Beyonce, like just talk to her about Beyonce, listen to 5 songs and come up with something that, you can engage the kid about. But I think that's one of the better ways in which to help, bridge those relationships. Because I think most things are just about communication and understanding, and often people miss each other.
Well, Kia, you said it in a way, girl, I'll be like, get your ass out there and play some defense. And then that coach will talk to you. I mean, I think kids really know, like assistant coaches need to be honest. And that's honest too, Kia. That is honest. But what we do is we love all of our players. That's not, we love them up. And we tell them, I said, look, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to talk to you out of love. But you're not doing your job. And so coach needs you to work hard in practice. She needs to see you in the gym. When she does that, when she sees you in the gym, her lens changes. I mean, it could be something like that. Just make sure that you lift your voice in practice, because she likes to hear talk on defense. So you can give them some ammunition. And of course, as an assistant, I've been there and I said, look, you just can't, look, you need to go out there. You can't act like that in practice. Coach doesn't like that. Look, I know, but she get on my nerves. Yeah, but that you can't do that. You got to go out there and do A, B, and C, and everything will be all right. And I'll talk to coach. So then you get that ally. Then they. So I do think that you just have to, for me, it's doing things on the court that I like to see. And can you get the players to do the things on the court? And when if they can't do it, then there has to be some type of reason, so.
Yeah, I think a true gift as an assistant is really getting those student athletes to see what your head coach expects. It's not easy, especially when they don't really buy in. And like Trina's saying, like maybe it's a long day, they're tired, they haven't eaten, there's whatever's going on. But you have to have those real conversations of, all right, let it go. It's time, we got to get to work right now. And it has to be like that constant. Your relationship coach, you want to make sure that you are there, they're doing the right thing, they're going to class, they're getting the grades, they're doing all that kind of stuff, but you cannot echo enough of what that coach says. But then you also have to have your own little style to them too, because you just don't want to be the person that's a robot. So I always say a true gift is someone that you can kind of as an assistant, you can relate to them a little bit. Maybe the Beyonce song, whatever it is, you know a little bit about them, and you're trying to, but you also got to know at the end of the day, You're here to compete for championships. You're here to graduate. You're here to do big things after basketball when you leave. And I think it's really important. It's a lot of communication nowadays, a lot of communication. And it's almost them getting off the phone and really locking into, okay, this is what I need you to do. You know, this is what needs to happen. This is what we need to do for this game. And especially in-game conversations are crucial, because they'll come off and they're like, I don't understand why I'm coming out of the game, or this and that. Back in the day, did we ever question anything? No. My coach would smack me in the mouth. Seriously. You know, like, you just didn't do it, you know? And nowadays they want to know why. Well, you're shooting like crap. You know what I mean? You're taking a playoff. So it's like, it's just constant communication.
And I just want to wrap up and say thank you for everyone for being here, especially to our three panelists, our three great coaches. Thank you for giving so much of your time and just telling us about yourselves and your programs and your journey. I know I definitely got a lot out of this, and I'm walking away with a lot of great nuggets of wisdom and some gems that I'm definitely gonna have to write back down when I rewatch this later. So thank you again. Thank you. And Lamar is gonna get us out of here and wrap us up.
Well, I want to say, first of all, thank you to the outstanding coaches on the panel, Coach DAMON-OLSON, Coach Barefoot, Coach Patterson. Thank you to all the individuals who are on the Zoom, and an extra special thank you to our moderator, CAROLYN Smalls, who's done a terrific job on Roundtable number 4 of What's the Game Plan, presented by Unmasked. You know, we look forward to having the next one. I'm sure myself and CAROLYN, sit down and figure out what's next. But I want to thank you guys, everyone that's on, especially to you coaches who's on the panel, of doing a terrific job and making sure we've educated more individuals again tonight. So I want to say thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.